Hey guys, Jim here. Welcome back once again. I apologize for the delay in between all of the videos, but I just haven't had a lot of time. And I especially apologize for not getting to this very special knife right here. I've had this for about 5 months. I picked this up directly from the maker at Blade Show 2019, and I'm just now getting around to showing it to you. This is something special, this is something unique, and that's something I promised you guys a while back, that I wasn't going to sit down and make videos unless I really had something special to show you. Because as I've mentioned before, over the past 2 years, if I'm going to take time out of work to sit down and make videos, you're going to get a positive review, because I'm only going to be showing you stuff that I really like. If it's not something great, I'm just not going to bother putting it on video. So there's no reason to heavily critique something. You know, there's always going to be pros and cons, but I'm going to show you something that I already like. So you already know that if it's on my channel, it's going to be worth investing in. And this is absolutely one of those knives by one of those makers you should be investing in. This is the Dew Hara Kisaragi. And I had a chance to sit down with Dew for a little bit as I picked this up from him at the Blade Show. And I gotta tell you, he's probably one of the sweetest, most genuine guys in the world. Super nice. For those that don't know who Dew is, he's the son of living legend Koji Hara, and Koji was actually with him at the Blade Show at the neighboring table, and it was nice to have never had a chance to meet him before, although I had met Dew in the past. Dew is carrying on the family legacy and tradition of making high-end, handmade, custom-made knives. Now, his design language is a very modern, futuristic, and aggressively styled design. He even came to the U.S. for a time. I think he was here for a few months as he was apprenticing under Tony Marfione over at Heretic Knives. So he's taken the learnings that he got from his father Koji and from Tony, put it all together with his own knowledge, and he's created some pretty stellar and unique knives, one of which I'm sitting here holding in front of me. My favorite design of his is called the Noah, and you should definitely go check it out. You can usually find them on Blade HQ and a few other big dealers like that. It's a larger knife if you're not into the really tiny knife segment, because this is, as you can see, extraordinarily small. And I guess we should start there, eh? We should start with the specifications. So you're looking at a 2.625 inch blade with a 2.5 inch cutting edge, and this particular blade is made of beautifully mirror polished VG10 Sanmai, and that's why you're seeing the different lines there. That's the layers of the Sanmai as they're being exposed as the blade is being ground. And what he's chosen to do here is create an all stainless steel knife construction. This is not titanium, and what he's done here is pretty damn incredible, because you really have to look to see it. But these pieces are individual overlays set into the liners, and there you see that it is a liner lock. This tiny little knife that is only just under 6.5 inches in overall length has a tremendous degree of work done to it. From the individual components that he has machined and assembled, to the polishing, the brushing, the bevels that he's put in certain key areas to work kind of like as facets to catch the light. Whoop, don't drop the knife. Is truly incredible work. I don't know how long it takes him to make one of these, but it's got to be a damn long time. Let me show you the packaging as well. This was actually kind of neat. If you just ordered this knife, you know, got it off a website or whatever, you wouldn't kind of get the same experience. But when I was getting the knife from him at his table, this was all just flat cardboard pieces, and he sat there and assembled the box in front of me, folded it up like some kind of crazy, what do you call that stuff where you make the little swans out of paper and stuff? You know what I'm talking about. I can't think of the name. Anyway, he's sitting there doing all this crazy stuff and literally building the box right there as I'm picking up the knife. So that was actually kind of a neat experience. Origami, that's the word I was searching for, origami. So first here is his business card, and you can reach out to him if you'd like to order a knife. I will replicate the information down in the description below, but you can do a quick pause and screen capture there. And then this is the authenticity card that comes with each of the knives. And it lists all the important specifications here. It's the Kisaragi, it's VG10. He listed as Damascus, etched with a mirror polish, 316 stainless steel, hand satin for the frame, for the handle. The liner, the lock itself, is 420 stainless, and the back spacer, which he lists as back bar, is also stainless steel. This was made in June of 2019, which was exactly when I picked it up. Serial number 43, and then they're individually hand signed by Dew himself. So that's the packaging that you can expect. Let's get a nice close-up look, and it's going to be a little bit hard because it's so shiny, but it's really a gorgeous, gorgeous little knife. Extraordinarily sharp. He has ground this down very, very, very thin. I love all of the angles on this knife. You know, a lot of the knives that I really enjoy the most have a very organic flow, soft lines, rounded, curved, whatever. But there are sometimes I really like hard, sharp edges, and this knife absolutely has that. You can see all of these straight lines intersecting into other straight lines. A very gentle recurve on the blade going up into an extended Tanto style tip. Do have that large, you can call it a thumb slot if you'd like, just it's really there I think primarily for looks and to lighten the blade. There is his custom made pivot, also mirror polished. It's a beautiful pivot too. Clean, simple. And then you have all of this brushed steel. These different segments that you can see as the light hits it have been very gently beveled and scalloped, and will catch the light in different ways as you move the knife. There's that stainless steel backspacer. The other side of the pivot. So yes, I guess if you wanted to say that there was one downside to it, you're not going to be able to service this knife yourself, because as you'll notice, there's only two pieces of hardware holding this entire knife together. One, very simple, very standard. Yeah, that's not too hard. But you do not have any way possible to adjust or open that pivot. So do keep that in mind. There is the stainless steel pocket clip. And you have to move it in the right light because this was laser etched. So you could see his logo, his name, and then number 43 etched into the clip. I do appreciate how subtle that is. I really, really like that. God, look at that blade. Look at that polish too. I think visually this is one of the most striking knives that I've had in my personal collection that isn't overly flashy, that isn't covered in Damascus or Mokutai or anything like that. He could have chosen to do a standard etch on this, and then you would have had a black and silver blade. Instead, he went with a very, very bright silver, which I gotta tell you, it complements the overall look and design of this knife very, very well. And I'm going to show you a contrast to that here in a moment, because what Dew Hara actually did was he teamed up with TJ over at Heretic Knives. Now remember, TJ is Tony Marfione Jr. So Heretic Knives is TJ's own company which works a lot in the same way that Microtech does. So what they did was they teamed up for a collaboration to make a production variation of this same knife. Now they changed the name of it. They called it the Tenshi. If you go back to the names, Kisaragi is Japanese for the month of February. Now I don't know if he was naming it after the traditional Japanese month of February name, or I've also found out that there was a Japanese destroyer named Kisaragi that was sunk by American forces in 1941. So maybe he was going after naming it after the destroyer. Maybe he was just going after the traditional name of the month of February. And then we have Tenshi, which is Japanese for angel, that TJ decided to go with here. Now with this knife, you're looking at flamed titanium. The frame underneath is carbon fiber. Looks like LVA carbon fiber, very, very clean. The blade on this, oh, it's not listed on the box. This is the Heretic packaging here. Same that you would normally get. You get your nice microfiber bag and the plastic Ziploc that it comes in. But I'm not sure what the blade steel is. I will double check and put it in the description. I think it might be S35VN. Let's see if it says. Actually, it does say. Would you look at that? I was actually right on my guess. S35VN is what's being used on theirs. And you'll see that there are only very slight variances. The sizes are identical. They've put this additional chamfer around the outer edges of the frame overlays. Almost everything is identical, though. They're grinding it obviously a little bit differently, but it is virtually identical. Now the Heretic is a little bit thicker than the custom, but it is lighter weight because while Dew makes a lot of different variations of these, he does them in aluminum alloys, duralumin, stainless steel. I think he's also done titanium. This being all steel is quite heavy for this little bitty knife. Meanwhile, the Tenshi is quite lightweight because it's carbon fiber and titanium. So this might be a little bit easier for most people to carry. But again, it's a tiny little knife. It's not like it's cumbersome in any way at all anyway. So there is your little side-by-side comparison. I'll come back to this in a few moments and give you some close-ups so you get a good chance to see that up close. But I do want to focus on Dew. He's extraordinarily talented and extraordinarily humble. And, you know, I've noticed that many of the best knife makers are humble, no matter where they're from. But, I mean, he's Japanese. You can sit there and compliment him and tell him how great and talented he is, and he's just going to smile and nod his head and say thank you, thank you, thank you. And then he'll find some really nice thing to say about you because he's so humble. He doesn't want somebody just telling him how great he is. And you got to realize he is very, very young. He has a whole lifetime ahead of him. So if he is putting out designs that are this wildly unique and so wonderfully executed at his age, I'm very excited to see what happens when he gets into his, 30s, 40s, 50s, 60s, when he gets to his father's age, and to see what he's going to accomplish over his lifetime. Because, again, this is a legacy that's being carried on. He is going to do this throughout his life as long as his health and body allows him to do so. I love the shape of this blade. I really, really do. And I've really fallen out of carrying much smaller knives. But there was something about this one that over the summertime, I reached for this quite often when I was just wearing shorts. I wanted something smaller, lightweight, not a big, heavy, giant knife that's going to go flopping around in your shorts. And I reached for this quite often. Now, not as often as I wanted to, because I knew I still had to do photography on it and do this review, so I didn't want to scratch it up. I mean, you get anything that's mirror polished, I don't care what the material is, you're going to scratch it with use. So I didn't want to carry it on a day where I'm like, well, you know, I'm going to go do so-and-so and I might actually have to use the knife. So I can't carry it today because I don't want to screw it up before I video it. So I want you guys to see these as close to pristine and new as possible. So now I have the freedom to carry it a hell of a lot more. And I got to tell you, every time I pick this knife up, I appreciate all of the intricate work that had to have gone into making this. Individually working these different components, creating that pivot, polishing that pivot to a perfect mirror. The jimping is fantastic, by the way. It's nice and bitey without being sharp. There is your lockup on the liner lock. I don't know if we can quite get enough light in there for you to see, but it's fairly early lockup. I call that about 20% lockup. I like how he skeletonized the flipper tab. And this is one of those knives that, and you get one every now and then, where you can feel, as smooth and as fast as this is, you can feel the bearings rolling. So you could definitely tell that this is made with bearings because you can feel them as they're rolling across that blade. And sometimes I really dig that. Sometimes you don't, I mean, obviously you want the smoothest possible action. This doesn't mean it's not smooth. It's just that you're feeling the action. And there's something kind of neat about that that I like, I enjoy in certain knives. And this looking the way that it does, as in, I don't know, I want to call it industrial because it's all brushed steel, but it really doesn't have an industrial design. It's a very modern, almost futuristic kind of design. I love the topography that this creates. I love the depth, the three-dimensional nature of these handles because of these sculpted pieces. And I gotta tell you, I can't quite figure out entirely how he has assembled this, because you don't see any exposed hardware holding this together. I mean, yeah, you have the tail screw here, which is keeping the back spacer in line, and it's one of the screws for the pocket clip, which I do like, by the way. It's sat down into its own pocket so it can't move back and forth. But there's no support for the rest of this material. Same thing here. You could say, well, the pivot is holding this in, but there's no visible support for that. This is like a little jigsaw puzzle, and I really, really love how that was put together. Now let's take a look at the Heretic Knives counterpart, the Tenshi. And you might be thinking, well, if Dew Hara is so easily accessible and he's willing to make knives, why would I ever buy the production version when I can just simply get the custom? Well, the answer is simple: your budget. Also, if you like this more tactical look versus the dressy, fancy look over there, the Dew Hara Custom in the configuration like I have mine is about $650. And they vary anywhere between $600 and I think the highest one I saw was around $800. This is only $350. So, you know, give or take a few bucks, it's about half the price. So if you're thinking to yourself, I love the size, but it's a knife that I think I would want to use, I'd be afraid to scratch up the fancy pretty one. Well, you spend half the amount of money, you get S35VN, you know, it's going to hold an edge well, it's going to do everything that you need it to do. It still looks damn custom. I mean, look at that cool pivot. Look at the integration of the flame titanium over the carbon fiber. And there's even less hardware showing on the presentation side. There's no tail screw over there. What? It's like magic! Because the standoff, again, not using a backspacer, the standoff is being attached behind the titanium. The only hardware you see are the two screws that hold the clip and the pivot. That's it. So this is still a wonderfully made, wonderfully engineered knife. The detent is a little weak. It's not quite as snappy as the Kisaragi, but if you push button it, It is nice and snappy, so it doesn't like to be light switched. As you see, it can be, and if you hit it just right, you'll be just fine. But it's just not a very strong detent. But if you, push button it, it's going to be nice and fast. So TJ, as always, does a great job of detailing these knives in a nice, unique finish. It's a badass looking knife. I enjoy the shit out of both of these. If I had to pick a favorite, well, yeah, it's going to be the custom in VG10 San Mai and all this intricate work done by hand. You're getting a lot of CNC work here. Nothing wrong with that whatsoever. That's what allows the price to be cheaper. There's not as much time into it. But I look at it and go, if I had to choose one or the other, sure, it's going to be the custom. It's made by someone who is carrying on their family legacy. I love to support individual knife makers. I love to support TJ and his family as well. They're all great people. I've gotten to know them over the past few years. But it's a different kind of thing. You know, this is somebody that can only make X amount of knives in a month or in a year. And to see each of these knives come to life, each one is going to be special and have its own little story to that knife maker. Whereas here you're looking at a full-on production knife. And there's nothing wrong with that. You're getting what you pay for. I think you're getting a little more than what you're paying for because this is still exceptionally well made. But you're buying a production knife, so it doesn't quite have the same soul as the full-on custom does. So anyway, what I would suggest to you, if you like the look of this knife, maybe the whole thing is the perfect package for you. You can Google it. You'll find plenty of places that have some in stock. I know Fort Henry Custom Knives deals with Dew Hara, Blade HQ, a few other really, really great dealers do. But if you look around, look at his other models. Again, I have to go back to the Noah. Really, that's still my favorite knife that he makes. Very cool, a little bit of a larger knife as well. But if you get a chance to go to any shows like Blade Show, the New York Custom Knife Show, that was the first time I met Dew about 4 years ago at the New York Custom Knife Show. Meet him, talk with him. He is a genuinely sweet individual that will spend all the time in the world with you, and you'll walk away from his table, whether you buy a knife or not, smiling. You'll be a happy person in a great mood for the rest of the day. That's just the kind of individual that he is. And you know what? Those are the kind of individuals that I like to support personally, that I like to support here on my channel. And it's been a great pleasure getting to know him. It was also an honor to get a chance to meet Koji as well. I just think if you want something that is truly inspired, something that is unique, then I think you need to look at Dew Hara's designs. Look at the knives that he makes. He does have some production collaborations, as you saw here with Heretic. I know that he did one with CRKT as well, sometime in the past year or two. So his name is growing bigger and bigger and bigger. So take advantage of the fact that you can still get something made, crafted by his own hands before his popularity gets out of control. I'm going to end it with that, my friends. Thank you so much for joining me, and I'll try to get back with you for another video sometime soon.